In my 2 decades of teaching university courses, I've never seen more students have more struggles than in the last 2 years. That's especially the case this current year. I have a suspicion as to why that is. One can't assume that every individual in any group is the same, but there are patterns and tendencies. In an earlier article and podcast, I offered a theory to understand generations by identifying major events occurring at individuals' most impressionable ages of 5 to 17. The last generation that I named was the COVID-19 generation. The lockdowns and high levels of anxiety in 2020 and 2021 took a toll on many people in all age groups. But the pandemic probably had a greater effect on young people in their formative years. Using the concept that those formative ages are 5 to 17 years old, we would define the COVID-19 generation as people born between 2003 and 2015. Also in my article, I offered a look to the future. And I said, we will see over the next 2 decades how these people respond to the pandemic's after effects. Drilling down further, there's a microgeneration within the COVID-19 generation of people who entered high school in 2020 or 2021. These people had their first year or two of high school disrupted by the pandemic. That would have affected them in various ways, including their relationship with education. In those highly formative and transitional years, these people had fewer opportunities to gain experience and skills in how to be engaged, dedicated students. Those students are now here in college. These missed years matter for this 2-year COVID-19 microgeneration as they arrive here in college. In contrast, students who graduated high school in 2020 and or 2021 had a rough last 2 years of high school, but their transition to college courses online was less jarring. They were older and better able to handle the pandemic. Their transition to college was smoothed by the added wrinkle that colleges and universities were abundantly deferential to incoming freshers, as everyone desperately wanted to get back to normal. That incoming class was perhaps the most coddled ever. In 2020, everyone was floundering, and the freshers class of 2020 was no more lost than most of their professors. In 2025, university sophomores and freshers are the students who probably received the greatest negative effects of the pandemic. They are the microgeneration who were born in 2006 and 2007. These student cohorts would have entered remotely high school in the pandemic years of 2020 and 2021. For many, that transition to that higher level of education would have been rough. These two cohorts graduated from high school in 2024 and 2025 and entered university those same years. These are the students who seem to be having a similarly rough transition to the next level of education, college and university. In every year I've taught, over 20 years, there are students who have high levels of motivation and scholastic skills. There are students who have low levels of motivation and scholastic skills. And there are a large number in the middle. Of all the cohorts I've ever taught, the two cohorts who are now juniors and seniors have the highest number of students who have lower motivation and scholastic skills. Of all the cohorts I've ever taught, the two cohorts who are now freshers and sophomores in college have the highest numbers of students who have low motivation and scholastic skills. In every course I teach, I give deadlines for assignments and an absolute drop-dead deadline for all work to be submitted for the course. Every year, there have been 1 or 2 students who, in the last few days of the term, suddenly emerged to express great concern over their missing assignments and impending failure of the course. A typical message from these students is, quote, "I'm sorry I haven't been handing in assignments. Is there any way I can pass the course?" Unquote. These messages come to me with only a few days before the end of term, with the students' hope that I will allow them to complete several weeks of work in several days. For years, these sudden end-of-term emergencies used to happen once or twice a year. Now they crop up at least 4 times a semester. The COVID-19 microgeneration has arrived, and they are less primed to cope with responsibility and more primed to seek exceptions from normal procedures. I suspect that during the pandemic, they were trained to plead for more exemptions to deadlines and responsibilities because during that exceptionally fraught time, they received them. Disengagement is now the baseline for these two cohorts. The last 2 years, I've seen the highest number ever of college students withdraw from courses. Some start the courses disengaged and lethargic, and then they just give up. Many of those who stay in the courses are also less enthused, less connected, and less dedicated than students in the past, even compared with students in the previous years. I could rattle off a bunch of numbers of how many students missed deadlines, how many missed deadlines by a month or more, and so on for the previous 2-3 terms. I could relate how several students contacted me about what more they could do to raise their grade after grades for the university were officially finalized and posted. It's like you were an athlete going, "Hey, I know we lost the game yesterday, but could I have a few more at-bats today?" Suffice to say that in my 20-plus years of teaching, I've never seen such a high level of apathy, disconnect, or lack of responsibility. Students get the grades they earn, and the previous spring term I saw the lowest median grade in my teaching history. And it isn't just me. Most of my colleagues report the same. I worry about some of these young people. I don't blame social media. I don't blame wokeness, whatever that is, and I don't blame AI. I blame the pandemic and the failure of high schools to help students and society in general for not caring about education. These students are lethargic and apathetic, but still expect to pass courses because grade school has taught them they can get away with it. I want to help them, but I can't make them care. Every individual is responsible for their actions, but no one acts within a vacuum. People act freely within the constraints their environment puts on them. The social environment we've created is not supportive for individuals of any age to excel intellectually. We especially don't give young people enough support. We could do much better for them, which would be better for us all. But all in all, I respect and admire most young people who do show strong perseverance in a difficult time of transition in life, from grade school to college, and from college to life. Right now, we are failing our students, failing to help them to deal with transitions in life. But there's another issue in which we are truly failing our students, which really seriously just makes me nauseous. By a remarkable stroke of good fortune, I get to teach university courses online and live and travel wherever I want to be. Online instruction can never be as good as in-person classes, but online courses can be very good if administrators and tech corporations don't insert themselves between professors and students. There is a lot wrong in education. I don't deny it. And I've discussed the harm to students inflicted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Those lost years can never be undone, but we can do our best to help affected students catch up. Unfortunately, that's not happening because there are problems beyond the COVID-19 microgeneration. Students of all years arrive at college less than fully prepared, and many of them are struggling in higher education. Students aren't getting as much out of higher education as they could or should. The right-wingers say that DEI is the culprit, which is BS. Diversity and inclusion initiatives benefit so many students, which of course is the real reason the right-wingers want to eliminate DEI. Well, that and they don't want diversity, equity, or inclusion anywhere, period. Amen. But there are real problems in higher education. They are real, they're easy to identify, but few people are talking about them. I won't repeat all the details so I can stay on target here. But the crucial ingredient that makes education work is engagement. Education is best when teachers are engaged with the subject matter, provide students with engaging course materials, and personally engaged with the students. The more teachers are engaged, the more students will be engaged. Teachers can't make a student care. The student has to make that free will Teachers can't make a student care. The student has to make that free will choice to engage with a course. Teachers can, through a lack of engagement, turn a student off from engaging. The student would think, well, if the professor doesn't care, why should I? And that's something I have heard too often from students who say that about other professors. Engagement. Simple to state, but takes a lot of effort to implement. Too many people are lazy, and professors are people too. Some professors, being human, all too human, are susceptible to the temptation to take easy ways out, to be lazy. Enter the corporations and their administrative enablers, because they want to monetize making education not work. Recently, I logged into my course management software package, and I saw a site that spurred me to these thoughts. It popped up on my screen when I went to engage with my students. And it said, here's what's new on Blackboard. This release introduces improvements in instructional design and assessment grading, of which there's a whole of one. The new feature of AI-powered feedback summaries, in which instructors can use the new Summarize option when grading assessments to generate AI-driven feedback to students. What the frell? AI has always been a gimmick, if not a scam, and the bursting of the AI bubble can't happen fast enough, thank you very much. AI doesn't help anything or anyone except the tech bros selling it. But the tech bros want to push AI on us in every area of our life. I'd be rich if I had $1 for every time an invitation to use AI pops up on my screen while I'm trying to do real work. Because I hold education to be something sacred, especially the teacher-student relationship, that latest invitation to use AI to grade my students nauseated me like finding a maggot in my coffee, which I know you don't find maggots in coffee, but that's how bizarre this is to me. Grading students by using an AI-generated summary? My nausea quickly turned to anger. At a time when lazy students are using AI to cheat on their writing assignments, professors using AI to cheat on their writing grading feedback would only make things worse. This new feature invites instructors to be lazy, and worse, to not engage directly with the students and their ideas. As I finished that previous sentence writing it down, a student emailed me asking about the feedback I had given on their last assignment. Now, I wrote that feedback, me, a human being, and I wrote a reply, I, a human being, to the student's email. That's how it should be. I do my job. No AI is needed, and in fact, AI gets in the way by inserting itself between the teacher and the student. AI would hinder the crucial ingredient of education, engagement. If you are a teacher at any level of education, and especially if you are a college or university professor, you have one job: teach students. You are supposed to help students learn. No one and nothing else. You. That's why you have the position you have, to help students learn. Everything else is secondary. To any professor who has any inclination to use AI in this course, in their courses, I say this: do your frelling job. You are supposed to be a professor, which means you spend the time and effort to engage with your students before, during, and after class time. Engage beforehand by designing your courses to encourage student engagement with the course and to help them learn. Engage during class time by facilitating open discussion in class. Engage after class by personally giving students feedback on their coursework. If you use AI to generate assignments, materials, or grading feedback, you are no longer a professor, you are just a babysitter. The tech corporations and the administrators might prefer that, but you shouldn't. They might be fine with harming education, but you absolutely should not help them.